All right. We are back. Hello.
What up?
There he is. Got Anthony Martini on. If you live in New Jersey, it's probably pretty if you're my age and you live in New Jersey, let's go there. It's probably impossible for you not to know who this man is. E-Town Concrete was a staple in the New Jersey hardcore scene for years. One of my gateway bands into hardcore, Appreciate you. One of the first shows I ever went to, actually.
Really?
E-Town Concrete show. Yeah. It was an intro into a new life and has led me down this path. So I'm here today partially because of you. So first off, thank you. And thank you for coming on this. I really do. I know we have a ton to talk about. First, I'll just say, if you don't know where he's been since E-Town Concrete, and has started a label called Commission a while back, and has quickly grown into the largest independent hip hop label probably in the world. Is it the largest one in the world?
Maybe. I mean, because there's a lot of kind of like nuance to independent. Like some people say they're independent, but they're affiliated with a major label, so I don't really count those. So being a fully, truly independent label, yeah, I think we probably are the biggest.
Yeah. So it's a little known fact that you are just killing it and on top of the world. And yeah, thank you. Thank you for taking 15 minutes today, because I'm sure you have a ton of going on right now with your artists too. I have a couple questions for you. I might just hit you with them. I know you always spoke, at least through your lyrics early on, about reality and personal struggle with your upbringing, coming from Elizabeth, and your whole childhood and situation there. And I think it gives you a really good perspective on class issues in this country, because I mean, for lack of a better word, you're literally like a rags to riches style story, and have seen both sides of the fence. And I'd love to hear, your take on how these class issues have affected you, and as you've transitioned your career now from where you are, what kind of advice you can give on how we can sort of tackle certain situations. So I'm just going to be quiet. I'm going to let you speak on that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think the overall issues, obviously, like what we're dealing with right now in the world is a much more, a very racial issue that's happening, specifically like with the Black Lives Matter stuff and all that. But I think the general problems that exist are mostly class based, and I think just by default, there's more of a demographic in certain classes than others. So by default, people of color get lumped into like sort of, I guess, like the lower tier of the classes, and partly because I think of the institutional racism that does exist. I come from, like you said, humble beginnings. Like I was on welfare, I had a single mom, like she was alcoholic, on drugs, like all sort of like the things that should have meant that I would be a statistic and not make it out, and all that kind of shit. But I kind of took all that stuff as motivation and used it to seek out a better life, and really like get the hustle and the grind to make it out. And I'm fortunate enough that I have, and I'm achieving the things that I always set out to achieve. And I think a lot of that's just personal, between person, whatever people's personalities are. I think that determines some of your, or most of your success in life. If you choose to kind of use things as motivation, or you choose to become a victim. And I kind of took everything and used it as motivation to get where I want to go. But, I do think there is a racial aspect to it, that even though I came from, sort of like the hood and all this shit, and I was like the only white kid around, like there's certain things I do think that are real, as far as like the racial issues that are happening. I mean, even like yesterday or the other day when this guy in Atlanta was shot and killed in the Wendy's parking lot that just happened, he he was sleeping in his car because he was, drinking that night and he didn't want to drive home. So he fell asleep in his car. I just saw the whole video between him and the cops today where like it's literally like a 10-minute conversation where they're giving him the breathalyzer. He's explaining he came from a party and like, it was totally calm, like nothing, you wouldn't even think it would go the way that it ended up going. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, they're trying to arrest him and then there's a struggle and he runs and they kill him. So that's something that I think is a racial issue. You know what I mean? Like I would never be afraid for my life, like if a cop pulled me over. You know what I mean? Like cops, we all have problems with cops and like I've been picked on and shit because I have tattoos and all that kind of stuff. But I think there's a different fear, legit fear where if you're black and you're pulled over, like you actually could die. Where I don't ever really think of it as those dire of a circumstance. But like, like this guy was trying to do the right thing. And especially considering all the shit that's happening right now with George Floyd and all this shit, like for cops to fucking still like shoot this guy like in a parking lot of a Wendy's is just insane. So, I think there is something there that's just, it's so real with like the black and white issues and all that we have to address. And that's why, there's always this whole debate of like Black Lives Matter or All Lives Matter and all that, like everyone knows all lives matter. You know what I mean? Like of course that's the thing. But what Black Lives Matter is like, it's about paying attention to something that's urgent right now, happening right now that, and it's saying like, yeah, of course, black people don't think white people's lives don't matter, but they're saying we need to pay attention to this and address this because this is more urgent. White people aren't getting shot for no reason when they get pulled over on the side of the road when black people are. You know what I mean? And so I think that's sort of, the difference, like class overall, like, I think the systems are put in place to keep the people in power and the people that don't have power from getting power. And I think that's regardless of skin color, but there are more systems in place, I think, that make it harder for people that are black or Hispanic to make it. You know what I mean? And
sure, of course. I do
from a system aspect, but also from like just life obstacles where, it is more dangerous to be black than it is to be white.
Yeah. I mean, I do think police are an extension of a system that's got flaws in its design. And I wonder what if, they sent social services to knock on that window for a guy who's, who may have a drinking problem. I don't know. But it's like,
the thing is, like, I think, like, everyone's it's so hard to talk about these things partly because of the culture that we live in is such this like cancel culture where you say one wrong thing, your fucking life is ruined, and it's like, fuck you. So no one wants, like, everyone's like tiptoeing around, like, the right things to say about all this shit. But like, cops have a hard job. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I get it. Like, you know what I mean? It's fucking scary. And, like, I can understand some of the issues that even the cops face when these things happen. But you know what? Like, that's the job you signed up for. Like, don't put yourself in a position where you're going to be fucking scared of everything and pulling out a gun and shooting people. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's certain, and I think it starts from the training. Like, they should be trained differently when they're, and there should be mental screening for cops. Like, if you're an athlete and you're getting drafted to like the NFL, they go through all sorts of like psychological testing to make sure you're not going to fucking waste your investment and become some asshole and like run off with the money. So like being a cop is a much more important job to society. Like, there should be real screening in the beginning. Like, if you're one of those type of people, and we all know them, like people that become cops that were just fucking like pussies in school and now they want power and they want to just go fucking like bully people. There are those types of cops, and those are the types of cops that, end up giving other good cops bad names. And I think a lot of that kind of shit, if you're just like some fucking macho testosterone filled like asshole that just wants to fuck people up, that should be caught before you become a cop. You know what I mean? Like in the initial screening, they should be like, this guy doesn't have the right profile to do the job. And
yeah, I mean, I spoke to police officers and I was like, when I was putting this event together, and was like, if you want to have a voice, like here's a guy who is perceived as a good cop, he's somebody that I know. And I was like, look, you can, I would, if you want to come on this thing, I'm trying not to be closed-minded. I want to hear perspectives. I know this person. I knew this person before he became a cop. He's not a bad person. He's not a racist. He's not an overly aggressive person. He's a well-educated man, and if I had a one-on-one conversation with him, there would be points on both sides where potentially we would realize, but he can't speak for himself. He has to speak on behalf of a police force. So he represents, because he represents the police force as a police officer. And that's where I think this breaks down, where people don't realize, like, there might be good people, but if they're complacent to letting a system, commit these crimes and they don't speak out against it, or they don't walk away from it, then they still are part of this problem. And that's like, I don't know, to me, that seems so obvious. And to a lot of people it does, but I think there's just a lot of short, angry rebuttals to that on the internet. But I think it's part of that conversation. And I think it's part of realizing that police officers may be underqualified for all of the things that are thrown at them in the world, and looking at that system and saying, what if someone else handled this? What if somebody else showed up?
I mean, that's why, like, I think, like, the whole defund the police, movement is sort of the wrong framing, because that's creating this knee-jerk reaction of like, oh, what the fuck, we're getting rid of the police. Like, no, we shouldn't get rid of the police. Their police serve a purpose. But like, police are, there's plenty of towns and cities that are overfunded, way overfunded for police. Like, I live in a fucking small ass, suburban town in Jersey, and we have the police station on our little ass main street where there's like fucking 5 stores, has like a tank. They have a fucking armored Humvee. I'm like, what the fuck? First of all, there's no even crime in this whole town. Like, so like, that just shows, like, there's too much money for wasteful shit. Like, police should be paid. They should have their overtime paid for, all that kind of shit. But like, you don't need armored vehicles. You don't need fucking, all this extra military, like, shit that creates this whole like soldier versus society thing. And like, put some of that funding into community programs that are, for, health, for fucking after school programs, like things that maybe would alleviate some of the tensions in these communities anyway, and also serve a purpose of like building from a younger age, kids that have places to go. They're off the streets. They're not getting in trouble. And then you actually don't have as much crime that you need fucking tanks to go fight. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like this vicious cycle, and, we just keep throwing more money at the wrong side of the problem instead of trying to fix the actual root. It's like, you have fucking cancer and you're just like putting Band-Aids on this shit. Like, no, you have to fix it from the inside. You got to like totally kind of start over with this shit. And so I just think the way that they're presenting it with like defund the police is the wrong way, because it's just giving the other side, more ammo to be like, look at these fucking idiots. Like, we don't have no police. And it gives like these talking points that aren't true that could just be repeated all over the internet. But
yeah, on surface value, if you're not as well educated into what that actually means, it's very scary and it's off-putting, and it's giving off the wrong message that, yeah, we're going to abolish any sort of law enforcement in the whole country, and it's just going to be the Wild West again. And it's like, clearly that's not true. I mean, and the people that are talking about defunding the police, and the organizations that are pushing for it, and, the communities that are pushing for it, have real valid points and real reasons. And it's like, just get past the scary phrase, see what it actually means, like, look into what the positive effects of that could be in communities. And, it's happened. Like, they've done it in areas. I mean, Camden, New Jersey did it. Yeah. And crime is down 40%. Mm-hmm. It was, and
a lot of the times, like, the police are not, actual parts of the community. You know what I mean? Like, and so that's part of it too. It's like you have people that are unfamiliar with the area, with the people, with all that. And so they anytime you're unfamiliar with anything, there's a fear aspect. And when you have fear, it's going to make you do shit that's stupid. So, like police should be, like, back in the day, you had these, I mean, I wasn't alive, but like, you know, you hear these stories from like our grandparents and parents, like, you know, the beat cop be in the neighborhood, and, you know, walking the streets and people knew him, he waved to people, you know, like those are the, you know, that's when the police were more like the fire department and like, you know, a celebrated part of the community. Instead, you know, it's become like this, almost like the villains. And I get like that side of it. It makes it worse because then there's always a reaction. It's like, oh, now they think we're the enemy, and now, you know, then it becomes like this whole back and forth that just keeps building until, you know, people are getting fucking killed.
Yep, it fuels itself, and it fuels the whole, you know, it fuels all of the conflict, I feel too. And I appreciate all your insight because I know you know, coming from this world, you do know a lot about this. You've been through systems that could need change, and you're smart enough now to realize that that's probably a path to solution. So thank you for talking about all that stuff. Before I let you go, I know you're working on something really awesome. I didn't want to spill the beans, but I would love to hear a little bit about what you have planning, what you have kind of planned to give back to the community in Elizabeth and stuff, because I think it's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, you know, like most people know, you know, I come from Elizabeth, New Jersey, which, you know, traditionally hasn't been like the greatest place. It's getting better now, but like it's still, you know, it's still like a pretty, you know, dangerous city, and there's a lot of issues. And, you know, as I've gotten success and made some money, you know, like I've continued to give back in little ways, whether that's supporting, you know, basketball teams or after school programs, or, you know, donating for shit like that. And this year, especially with everything that's been going on too, it just really kind of solidified that I wanted to do something more. And so I'm putting together a scholarship program. It's going to be called the Time to Shine Foundation. And, you know, the idea is to pick a kid from Elizabeth every year and pay for his college, or his or her college. And, you know, kind of working out the criteria still on what that, you know, what the, you know, boxes to check to actually qualify for it will mean. But I'm thinking something in the creative arts, you know, whether you're a kid that's into music or in music programs or art programs, or, you know, something like that, and really give them the opportunity to, you know, go and get a higher education. I mean, you know, that's not the end all be all. Like, I actually didn't finish college or, you know, anything. And I actually dropped out of college to pursue music and go on tour, which I think gave me the best education I could have gotten. And so I'm actually trying to figure out a way to build that into something too, because I think one of the biggest like life-changing things that anyone could do is to travel and meet other people. I mean, that, you know, if it boils down to everything, it's like racism, all that shit, it's based on fear and not knowing other types of people and not being in interaction, and to realize that like we're all fucking human. And absolutely, you know, especially like people that come from where I'm from. I mean, most of the people, even kids that I went to school with, like no one leaves that town. Like, you know what I mean? Like they grow up there, they live there their whole lives. They maybe go on some vacations to like Florida or something, but like they don't know anything about the rest of the world, the rest of the country. And so, you know, I'd love to figure out a way too to have some sort of like almost like foreign exchange type thing, or so, you know, something to just send a kid to fucking Europe, you know what I mean? And like go talk to people, and like you realize like I've been all over the world, and you know, even in the craziest places, I go to like, I've been in like fucking Arab countries that, you know, on TV you would think like, oh, this is like the bed of terrorism and all this shit, and like you talk to these people. They love America. They love fucking hip hop, and like music kind of brings everyone together. And you realize like we're all the fucking same. We're all humans, and we're really just kind of fighting other people's wars. And, you know, like we're pawns in this big game where, you know, the people at the top of the pyramid, they know this shit's all a game. Like, you know what I mean? And they're using all the people that are in the lower classes to kind of fight their battles and, you know, achieve their little fucking political, you know, goals and all that kind of shit. But it's all based on money, and it's all based on everything. And I think, you know, traveling the world, getting to meet other people, you know, interacting, seeing different cities, it opens your mind, it opens your, you know, your heart to just like realizing all this shit that you didn't know in your own little world. And so part of that, you know, scholarship, I want to figure out maybe like some sort of travel aspect, whether it's a month, somewhere else or something. But we're figuring it out now. But
it's awesome. Well, I think it's awesome. I love seeing people that came from the New Jersey hardcore scene go on to do great things and then give back to the community. So I fucking really appreciate you, man. I hate to cut you off. I got to keep this rolling, but Anthony Martini, thank you so much for being a part of this. Good luck with the Time to Shine Foundation. Keep me in the loop. I want to see where that goes. Maybe I could be of service.
I'll keep you posted, man. Thank you. It's, appreciate what you're doing, trying to give back and do your thing. So, you're the man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you. Talk to you.
All
right. Anthony Martini, E-Town Concrete. What a surreal moment for me. Love that man.